What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is the Whiskey Jedi podcast. My name is Jake Berlin. I am your host. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Super excited to be back on the microphone. It has been a little bit, but I've been extremely busy on this end. Also dealing with some stuff at work, which is never fun. But I'm excited to be here. I'm not there. I'm here. And I can't wait to talk about the things that we were talking about. I've obviously missed a lot of stuff that has happened over the last few weeks. I've been covering it over on my TikTok. I've mentioned it here on the show before. I'm going to promote it. I do news clips, news videos over on TikTok, and I cover a lot of, the big stuff that comes out, whether it's a casting or a movie announcement or like the last couple of weeks stuff about Deadpool Wolverine, kind of the more spoilery stuff. But yeah, I've been talking about a lot of stuff that's here on this panel here, or this rundown, I should say, on my TikTok. So you can kind of see my immediate thoughts on that stuff there, but I get a chance to dive into it here a little bit more and have discussions with you guys on these topics, which I'm super excited to do tonight. I've last few weeks have obviously, when it comes to movies and television, have been very exciting. Some really good movies in the theaters. A lot of big news has been happening. San Diego Comic-Con was kind of a hit. Feels like the first one in a while that was pretty big and massive with lots of news and kind of positive reactions to it, which is a good thing because over the last few years, Comic-Con has kind of felt like it doesn't need to exist, with things like Marvel and Star Wars and DC not present. Not to say that the other ones don't deserve to be there, but you kind of have to look at what the heavy hitters are like, and if they're involved, then things are going to be a little bit bigger. So to have those there this year, specifically Marvel, not discounting any of the other things, any other studios or brands, but Marvel is Marvel, right? If they're there for a reason, and they dropped the hammer this year. And we're going to get into it. I promise. There's two topics there that you see that are revolving around the San Diego Comic-Con stuff that happened just a few weeks ago. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing great. I've been trying to keep up on stuff when it comes to social media. I hope that all of you are enjoying that. If you guys are commenting along, I appreciate that. Really, really appreciate the feedback when it comes to that. If I'm not here, that's the best place to always find me, of course. And again, I mentioned it here, I think, a couple of times, but I'm going to mention it now. If you guys ever have things that you want me to talk about on the show, you can send them to me there. I know a bunch of you are part of the Discord for POV. There's obviously options there. You can do it in the Whiskey Jedi channel, or you can do it as direct message. You can find me on X or Instagram, TikTok, as I mentioned. And you guys can always ask about or mention things that I could, talk about there. So don't forget that, because I would love to hear from you guys on what you would want to hear me discuss. So, but before I get into the topics, I'm going to bring up the whiskey part of the show, bringing back a familiar one that I've really been excited to bring back. I've had it obviously a few times since I opened it up here on the show a couple months ago. This is Tin Cup American whiskey. Awesome whiskey. One that I've been wanting to try for a very long time, and I finally got the opportunity to try it. It is very, very good. It's out of Colorado, which is not what you typically see for a whiskey. You see, obviously, Tennessee and some California. California has actually been popping up a lot more lately. But yeah, Colorado American whiskey. Very, very good. I'm going to do a video on this one. I have two in the chamber right now. One that I'm going to do. So I have the Old Republic one, and then I'm going to be doing Tin Cup as well. You'll be seeing separate videos on those probably early next week. I need to have the weekend to shoot those, a little bit more time, not balancing work and stuff like that. Obviously, we have the 10-month-old at home. So I just need time to do that. So, but yeah, Tin Cup tonight. I'm going to do a little review on that later on, but I'm just going to enjoy it for the show while I talk about everything, because we have some really big topics to discuss tonight. So, yeah, it's just so good. It's just so smooth and good. John, Big G, Brennan, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. I see that there's a couple more of you who are here but not commenting. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. The only other thing that I did want to mention, because I was realizing it as I was watching the intro. I'm working on a new intro right now. There's going to be new music, something a little bit more familiar and comfortable when it comes to me and my shows. You're probably going to see the same clips, if not extremely similar, because those are things I love. So, but I'm working on something new, something a little bit more long lasting, I should say, something that I feel like could be my intro for a while. And the idea was to always have that intro, to have those clips be interchangeable. And if I'm not mistaken, I made a very quick version of that doesn't allow me to interchange things. So I have to basically recreate the whole thing to allow me to interchange those clips. So you'll probably see a new intro here in a few shows. I'm not going to say the next show because time is time. But that's one thing I did want to mention, just because it was at the top of my head as I was watching it. So, and I'm going to try to work on an outro too. I don't really have that cool of an outro, and I want to work on something. So, Dino Park Dan, what's up, man? Thank you so much for joining me. Let's get into it, guys. We're going to get into these topics. I'm going to quickly cover House of the Dragon Season 2 to start the show off, for obvious reasons. Season 2 has officially closed. We have seen the 8 episodes of Season 2, and it's a little bit of a bummer, if I'm being honest. A little bit of a bummer when it comes to the finale for Season 2 of the House of the Dragon. And the reason I say that is because, well, I'm not going to say there's one reason. There's multiple reasons why I say that. First and foremost, a show of the size of House of the Dragon, unless you are ending the season on a really strong, good, heartwarming note that puts the characters in a good situation, I can understand them ending, in a situation where they're at a good place, right? That's not what House of the Dragon is. And everyone's been talking about like the build up for season 2 and how the characters have been kind of, moving towards this moment, and they're setting up the Battle of Gollet, I believe it is called, which I get that. I understand. But we have to remember how the first season ended. The first season, 8 episodes ago, the first season ended with a son. Spoiler alert. For those who have not seen House of the Dragon, spoiler alert. The first season ended with one son devouring another with his dragon. And we have yet to see retaliation for that. Well, I mean, okay, excuse me. We have seen retaliation, blood and cheese, but not proper retaliation. Not proper retaliation from Rhaenyra. That was from Daemon making a call that should not have been made. But we have not seen the response from Rhaenyra from the death of Luke. So the time that is being spent is very just kind of dragged out. And this isn't just the finale, by the way. I had felt this for the last like maybe 3-4 episodes. It's taking its time a little too much. And that was even more so with the finale. The fact that nothing happened in the finale, I've been saying this, I said this when I reviewed it. Videos up on TikTok again. We essentially saw the trailer for season 3. That's what the finale basically was. It was, I would say, episodes 7 and 8 were basically the trailer for season 3. And that's not what I want. I don't want that. Unfortunately, we got that. So I'm bummed about it. I'm disappointed by it. I know that they're taking their time and they're building up to a moment that's supposed to be like the moment. I get that. But you got to give us something. It's a finale. It's the last episode for 2 years. We are not going to be seeing anything related to House of the Dragon until 2026. My son will be 2 years old. I will be 2 years older. We'll all be 2 years older. And the fact that we have to wait from 2022, August of 2022, is when we saw the events of Aemond, Vhagar, Luke. The whole thing happened. We're going to be waiting 4 years to see the retaliation of those events. That sucks. That really, really sucks. And I'm saying this while I'm loving all of the character work that is happening between these characters. The dialogue is great. The relationships are great. You know, the stuff with Rhaenyra and Allison was great. But I didn't need 8 episodes of it. It was 4 or 5 episodes too long. We could have gotten so much farther into this story in this season if I did. They didn't understand. It felt like they didn't understand how to tell it. It felt like maybe they were given a season quota, right? Because I have a feeling that they were told we need to stretch this to 4 seasons, or we're going to stretch this to 4 seasons, and this is the result of that. I would much rather be happier with 3 incredibly strong seasons. I don't need an extra season to make it feel longer. Not just because it's Game of Thrones, but because we have 2 other Game of Thrones shows coming. We don't need all of that at once. Like Duncan and Egg is coming, or the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, excuse me. I'd rather have one of them at once where it's just incredibly strong rather than simultaneously every year. We said the same thing with Marvel, right? And obviously Marvel's different. There's characters in its universe, etc. Like it's a different breed, but we had been fighting for the last few years so much about how it felt like they were going for quantity over quality. I'm not saying HBO's doing that with Game of Thrones, but if it gets to a point where they're frequently putting out these shows and stretching them, so Game of Thrones is out there in every corner of the universe, then we will start to have that conversation. I would much rather have quality when it comes to something like Game of Thrones. And it's what's funny about it, it was the complete opposite with Game of Thrones. They shortened it to get it over with because of something behind the scenes and the creators and, you know, Benioff and Weiss, and there was all kinds of madness with that show. Where that show should have gone 10 seasons. They should have stretched that story out, and not even stretch it out, but they should have told that story in length because it deserved to be told in length. The fact that the White Walkers were only 1 episode, they were gone by episode 3 of the final season after 7 seasons of buildup. I'm getting off topic here. I'm just saying, like, House of the Dragon is taking its time too much. Season 3 better be the best season of all time. It better be the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The Battle of Gullet better be the best battle I have ever seen in Game of Thrones, period. Because they took 8 episodes to build it up, and now we have to wait another 2 years. So, but like I said, I like the season. I like the movements that characters made. There were some stuff that I didn't really like. I didn't really like the stuff that happened with Daemon. He was just off on an island by himself the whole time. That was really unfortunate. But again, I know that the season was basically setting everything up that's coming. It's just unfortunate that they took 8 episodes to do it. I felt like they could have done 4 or 5. But I didn't read the books. I don't know the history that it's coming from. So I don't know. I'm interested in what people who did read the books and understand Game of Thrones more than I do think of it. I have to message Ace because Ace is actually, we talked a lot through the season. I have to message him. I gotta get his thoughts. I would love to hear from him on where he thought it ended and how it ended, because that would give me a better idea rather than just going about it, you know, as a fan with no knowledge of where it's coming from. So, all right, let's get to a couple comments here before I move on. John says just a long time until next season. I agree with you, man. 2 years. 2 years. Big G. That's not what Game of Thrones is. It didn't end where I thought it would. Agreed. Booze. This war is going to take 5 years for us and 2 weeks for them. It's probably going to take less than 2 weeks, dude. I mean, it's probably going to take 2 weeks, but like the Battle of Gullet's going to happen in like a day. It's going to be like a day battle. One day with dragons and ships and everything, and it's over. And it's going to take 5 years for us. That's wild. Dino Park Dan, I guess it doesn't help that George R. Martin hasn't finished the books. I agree with. I mean, is he ever going to finish the books? At this point, is he ever going to finish them? I don't know. Andy, that's not hard. All the Game of Thrones battles were trash. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey now. Hey now. I'm interested how far you got in the Game of Thrones, Andy. I feel like you didn't finish it. And I feel like you may not have seen Battle of the Bastards or Hard Home. Those are just two of many. But let's not call them all trash. Just many in the last season were trash. We can just say that. But there were a lot of incredible battles in that show. Don't be a hater. Don't be a hater. Big G, the stuff with Damon wasn't in the book. Oh, interesting. See, now I dislike it even more. That was just added to be added. Like, it was just there so he could touch the tree and see the future, essentially. See the White Walkers, see Daenerys, because he had that vision. It felt like his entire time at not Harrenhal. I'm forgetting the name. There's so many names in this place. I'm forgetting the name that he was at. Maybe it wasn't Harrenhal. I don't know. He was only there just so he could see the vision. And then he had the realization that Rhaenyra is supposed to be on the throne. But that makes me dislike it even more, which is super bummer. Rachel! What's up, Rachel? How you doing? John says those kids are going to age so fast. I agree, man. I agree. Andy. Nah, those were all trash. I feel like you're just in a mood today. I hope it's just a mood. Because they weren't. Battle of Blackwater Bay. That was great. There's another one. And that was early. I think we all disagree with you, Andy, but that's okay. Everyone's allowed an opinion. Everyone is allowed an opinion. Just like my opinion of season 2 was so-so. I think season 1 is better when it comes to impact. I think season 2 is going to be more important because of the decisions made by characters. But we'll see in 2 years when season 3 happens. I'm just very, very nervous that when season 3 comes out, season 2 won't matter anymore. Like, we could have gone from season 1 to season 3. That's what I fear. Is that we could have just jumped over season 2 without it even mattering. So we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Let's get into our second topic of the evening. I have not discussed Deadpool and Wolverine online yet. I mean, I've briefly talked about it. I gave my quick little thoughts, like on X and stuff. But I haven't really like dived into it a lot. I've retweeted some stuff and I gave my thoughts on TikTok. If you follow me on TikTok, then you've seen my thoughts, but I didn't really get into like spoilers. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because I didn't get a chance to talk about it immediately after seeing it. And it's been 2 weeks now, maybe even 3 weeks. I loved it. I loved it so much. It's my favorite of the 3, no doubt. 100% my favorite of the 3 of them. I really do hold the first movie like in a special place, and I rewatched it before. I rewatched both of them before I saw the first one or the third one, and I love the first one to pieces. I just love what it's all about. But this one, like, and there's so many aspects of this movie that I love so much. I think Ryan Reynolds has never been better as the character. And it's funny because he's under Disney in this part or this movie, and they clearly allowed him to do whatever he wants. There's probably some stuff that they didn't allow, but they go far with the jokes. And I really, really appreciate it. So I don't think Ryan Reynolds has ever been better. I think he's perfect as this character, excuse me. And I cannot wait to see his future because it's definitely happening where he's crossing over, coming into our universe, etc. I think Logan was the best Hugh Jackman has ever been as Wolverine. Like his best performance as the character. But, and I may get slack for this, I think this is the best version of Wolverine we've ever seen. So two very different things. I think his performance in Logan is better. Like, I think it's just more impactful. It's more emotional. It's stronger because of what is required of him in that role. But the character of Wolverine, being that it's so different from the character of Wolverine we've seen before, I think it's the best version of that character we've seen to date in year 24 of Wolverine being on screen. Super cool. He was so good. So good. I loved how they involved him. The stuff with, the anchor being is obviously up for question. That's a whole other conversation of, what that means and where that's headed and if it even actually means anything. But I love the inclusion of Wolverine, the meaning of it, why he was there, and why that specific Wolverine happened. And what can you really say about Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman on screen together? It's something we've wanted to see for, I mean, over a decade. We saw them in Origins, but like, did we see them in Origins? Right? Kind of throw that in the back of our mind and forget about it. They're best friends off screen. They're clearly capable of throwing some incredible stuff together. But then when you put in Sean Levy, who I've been championing, I said it again. I've been just championing, however you say that word, if that's even a word. I love Sean Levy so much as a creator. I think he is such a good director. And this is the first kind of this movie he's ever done. And he crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. And it helps having two of your best friends there. Like, he and Hugh Jackman worked together in 2011 on Real Steel. They created a friendship there. He and Ryan Reynolds have been working together for years. 3 straight films together: Free Guy, The Adam Project, and now this. They're the dream team. They are the dream team. And when you put them all together, they created an absolutely beautiful film that is so fun. It is so ridiculous, but it also has a massive impact on everything around it. The impact it has on the MCU is pretty massive. And I'm not just talking about the anchor being stuff. Everything with the TVA is very, very interesting. Kind of how they're being operated now after the events of Loki. So I'm curious on what happens there. But let's talk about the big stuff here. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it. I apologize. X-23, Laura, Daphne Keene. We saw her in the trailer. She's there. Jennifer Garner's Elektra, Wesley Snipes' Blade, Channing Tatum's Gambit. I mean, the Void Vengers are kicking ass. I love it. It's such a thrown together squad, obviously, but what a cool idea to bring together this team. And not to mention, obviously, probably the biggest cameo of them all outside of Wesley Snipes. I think Wesley Snipes had the biggest impact. I think people responded and reacted to Wesley Snipes coming back the biggest, but the cameo of Chris Evans as Johnny Storm was epic. Epic. By far the most fun reaction I had watching this. And they tried to throw you off. He looks like Steve Rogers, clearly. But if you go back and watch it after watching it the first time, he's clearly Johnny Storm from the start. His hair isn't as blonde. And they throw you off by he has bandages on his forearm, like a kind of like a suit almost, where it looks like Cap's suit. It's got red and white strings kind of, intertwined, making it look like it's a red, white, and blue suit. But he's Johnny Storm from the start. And I love the moment where he says "Flame on." Obviously, his time ends gruesomely. Cassandra Nova, absolutely one of the worst deaths I have ever seen, just rips his skin off. I mean, that is unreal. But what a cameo, what a moment for Chris Evans to come back and play the character. Really, really cool to see him as that character one more time. We had been theorizing for so long if we're going to see him, and we had these conversations when we saw Multiverse of Madness, but he shows up here, which I think is perfect. It's a perfect spot because this movie overall, it's a love letter to everything that happened before the MCU. It's a love letter to everything Marvel Fox. And one of those was the Fantastic Four movies with Chris Evans. And so to include him was a really good move. I really enjoyed it. I'm really happy that he came in and did it. It was small, it was short. His post-credit scene, by the way, epic. So good. And the fact that he memorized that, Chris Evans said he memorized that because he doesn't ever get a chance to do stuff like that. And so he wanted to make sure he did it, which is really cool. I love that very much. And then one we didn't mention was Henry Cavill as Wolverine. He is the only other actor in the entire planet to ever play Wolverine outside of Hugh Jackman, which I think is awesome. I would love to see him as Wolverine in the future. I don't think it's happening, but a great moment for us fans who have been obviously talking about it for so long now that he's not playing Superman anymore. Oh, Marvel should get him to play Wolverine. He looked great. The cigar in his mouth. He's got the hair with the chops. It was awesome. Yeah, Big G said the Calverine. And that scene was great. Deadpool is it. Oh my fuck. The Calverine. And I love where he says where those shit boxes down the street or whatever. It was great. The whole scene was amazing. The way Ryan Reynolds played it. I love seeing the arm pumping from Mission Impossible with the claws. It was a chef's kiss scene. That whole like montage of the Wolverines was great, but the Calverine was definitely my favorite. It was 100% my favorite. And learning that they essentially did all that within 15 minutes of coming up with the idea, writing the scene, texting Henry Cavill, and him saying, yes, all happened within 15 minutes was great. They've talked about it online. Sean Levy, Ryan Reynolds. I just love how they're able to get all this stuff and make it work like that. And the fact that Henry Cavill was willing to do it is really, really cool. So I think there's a chance he plays another character in the MCU, but I would 100% back him being Wolverine going forward if he was to play a version of Wolverine. I don't think it'll happen, but that's just my thoughts. Dino Park Dan asked it in the chat. Thank you so much for the question. How was Cassandra Nova? I'm not going to say she was like the greatest thing of all time, but I was very surprised at how much I did enjoy her. I really liked the story they gave her. Charles Xavier never met her. She was put there before she was basically ever born because the TVA knew how powerful she was, and she's clearly like unbelievably powerful. The stuff she does with her fingers where she like goes through your body, which is a comic accurate thing. She has some incredible power, just like her brother. And it also, it's not like, so, and quite honestly, she's too powerful she really was too powerful for the events of what was going on with Deadpool and Wolverine, the Void, everything. But they gave her the story of she was put there and she is given access to essentially all of the characters that are thrown there, and Alioth feeds on them and she rules the Void. So why would you want to leave the Void if you are the ruler, the one person who is basically just covering all grounds? Like when we met Johnny Storm for the first time, he mentioned it. How she is basically covering everything. She is the one you don't want to run up against. And again, like Andy said it, for such a wild character, they did a great job having her make any sense. I agree with you. Like I really didn't think I was going to believe in this character and really like understand why they chose Cassandra Nova as the character, but they didn't choose her just because she was put there as a baby, because she was so powerful, because she made a deal with the TVA. She was put there as the villain, as the, not even a villain really, but the antagonist of the movie, because she has a connection, a very zigzag off connection to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It all, ultimately, she was there for the reason of Hugh Jackman talking about how if your brother knew you existed, he would have loved you. He would have accepted you. Like that moment between them was awesome. Awesome. I loved, because, and obviously she has the moment at the end where the TVA, we learn that the TVA, well, not the TVA, but the main agent, I'm forgetting his name, so please in the chat let me know. Hey Jane, how you doing? But we learn that the TVA basically backstab her, right? They're not giving her what she wants, or they're going about it around her, around her with Pyro. So that turns her into this person who goes to the world. She uses her sling ring, which we see has the 2 Infinity Stones on, because she can leave the void at any time she wants to. Paradox, thank you. We learned that Paradox goes behind her back. She can leave the void whenever she wants to, but she doesn't need to. She has her paradise. But when Paradox backstabs her, she goes and she then wants to destroy everything. And I think that was okay with, like, I was okay with it. I'm not like super enthused by it, but it was a good enough reason for me to be like, oh yeah, that's believable. Like, this character has the ability to leave. She doesn't care to, because she is all ruling. She's the king of the void. She has these characters. She has, alternate versions of all these characters under her from the X-Men universe, Sabretooth, Juggernaut, all of them. Hi. And so why would she want to leave until she's backstabbed? Which makes sense. Sorry, guys, the light turned on because someone's doing laundry. It's okay.
I have to dry both clothes.
You're good. You're good. And then when she came to the real world, or when she came to Deadpool's world, and her trying to take control of everything and destroy all timelines, I thought it made sense. Because it created a moment between Wolverine and Deadpool where they had to save the universe, which I loved, that moment between the two of them. Deadpool sacrificing himself, or thinking he would, right? Because Paradox telling them that they wouldn't survive if they did this. They have, that's their deathbed. And stub your toe.
No, I stabbed myself in the eye with a stupid
So yeah, I was totally okay with Cassandra Nova. I thought they did a really good job with her, like a really good job with her. I thought she did a great performance, and I enjoyed the character a lot more than I expected to. Something I haven't mentioned in this movie yet is the action. I can't spend too much time on it because I have a couple other things I got to talk about, but the action was absolutely phenomenal. That first fight between Wolverine and Deadpool with the 20th Century Fox sign, when they first kind of go at it, and you have AC/DC playing in the background, was incredible. The choreography and just everything about it, how they went, for lack of a better word, they went full berserk with these characters. Neither of them can really die. They have the ability to heal. They're stabbing and choking and like doing all these things with each other. And it was like poetry in motion in the most violent way possible. And then you go to the car scene with the minivan, which was amazing. Right before Laura basically, drives them off to meet the Void Avengers. Just the action was so good. It was so, and I'm not surprised, because the action in the first 2 Deadpool movies was great. The action in the Wolverine movies has been great, but Sean Levy just understands. He really does. He just gets it. And again, I mentioned it before, but having Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman there as well is obviously a big deal. So yeah, I mean, all around, man, like, this movie's an absolute hit. It's massive. I don't know where it ranks in my MCU ranking. Like, that's obviously a very long list to get through, but it's one of my favorites since Endgame, for sure. And I would not argue against anybody saying it's their favorite since Endgame. I have a few that contend with it. Shang-Chi's one that comes to mind that I absolutely adore. But it could easily change after watching this a second time. Deadpool and Wolverine, for all intents and purposes, completely obliterated all expectations. The movie, the story, I think, is the only thing people may be questioning, but the story is very strong. The action is unbelievable. The cameos are probably some of the best cameos we've ever seen. I didn't talk much on Wesley Snipes' Blade, Channing Tatum, Gambit, but like, unbelievable. I need Channing Tatum to come back to be the MCU's Gambit. I've been saying it ever since I saw the movie. I want him to be Gambit. The dude deserves to be Gambit. And I know the argument can be made that anybody from the Fox universe isn't going to be playing their Gambit. I don't think that's true. I think it's very possible that we see Channing Tatum as Gambit going forward, as well as, and I said this the other day, I think there's a very, very high possibility that Daphne King's X-23 becomes the MCU's version of Wolverine. Because we know we're getting Hugh Jackman back for both the Avengers movies, if not just the first one. He's going to be in at least Doomsday. He could be in Secret Wars. He'll more than likely be in Secret Wars as well. You retire the male version of Wolverine and you give the mantle to Daphne Keen's X-23. Why not? She's just as capable. And people react and respond to her just as much right now because of Logan. When she put on her glasses in this movie, the theater I was in opening night at IMAX went berserk. They went nuts seeing those glasses from Logan for another time. What a moment. Like, what an idea to do that. I would not be surprised if they float around the idea of having her be Wolverine. And I would be 100% okay with it. So yeah, I would love to see Channing Tatum back. I think he deserves to be the character. I think he's great as the character. The accent could obviously be toned down a little bit, but I think they did that on purpose for this movie to get a reaction from Deadpool. I think he should be Gambit. I think X-23 should be Wolverine. They put her in the end of the movie for a reason. They're going to bring her back. Why not have her take over the role? I think it'd be a great idea. Jennifer Garner was awesome. I love the videos she's been putting out too about her training for this. Such a great idea to bring her back. I love seeing it. She also had Daredevil's belt, which I thought was really cool. And then Wesley Snipes. I mean, come on, the OG. For a lot of, honestly, a lot of this universe stuff would not be happening without Blade. Blade was the first, in my opinion. Yes, there were Marvel movies before that, but Blade was the first that was like, okay, we can actually do this. Those first two movies, and I secretly kind of love Blade Trinity for its goofiness, but the first two movies are absolute monster movies, and he was awesome in this. I loved seeing him return. Really, really cool. So yeah, Deadpool's a massive hit. I loved a lot of it. I have a few knocks, but it's nothing worth mentioning because I love the movie so much. I had such a fun time. I had such a great time watching the movie. It is such a crowd-pleasing movie. The opening scene, by the way, haven't mentioned that at all. The opening scene is probably the best opening scene to a Marvel movie ever. Ever. Better than Guardians of the Galaxy with Star-Lord. Better than Infinity War with Thanos. The whole Logan sequence with Bye 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 was unbelievable. But I shouldn't expect anything else. I really shouldn't. So, Andy, when I saw the card, I thought it was going to be Colin Farrell's Bullseye, but the Gambit reveal was perfect. I didn't think about that. That could have been really cool, and it makes complete sense, obviously, because of Elektra. But yeah, the Channing Tatum, he's been wanting to play this character for so long. He had a movie lined up years ago at Comic-Con. He was announced. He brought out on stage. Didn't end up happening. He finally gets the chance to play the character. Really, really cool. I hope it happens again. I really hope it happens again. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on because we are getting close to time here. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the news for Fantastic Four from Comic-Con. I don't have to spend a ton of time on this because there's not a ton to talk about, but I wanted to bring it up because I am very, very, very excited for this movie. Very excited. So at San Diego Comic-Con, when Marvel had their panel Saturday night, they had the Spotlight stage on Saturday night. They focused, a big part of that was Fantastic Four. They brought the cast out on stage for the first time, seen in person for the first time ever. They look awesome. Duh. They did show a teaser, a little B-roll footage of the movie, kind of a quick teaser. I have not watched it. I know it's leaked online. I'm choosing not to watch it because I'd rather just see a high-def normal version. It's not going to sway me one way or another. I've heard the sizzle was really cool. I heard the footage looked great. I did see the picture of Galactus. It popped up on my timeline. I haven't seen any footage, but I did see the picture of Galactus, which I thought was really cool. Good little kind of last minute throw in there at the very end. But some of the updates that we learned is there's an official title. It's not just called the Fantastic Four. It's called the Fantastic Four First Steps, which I think is an awesome title. Really, really cool. It's in line with Spider-Man Homecoming, right? Spider-Man Homecoming was all about bringing Spider-Man home back to Marvel, right? He's in the MCU. He's back under the Marvel roof, kind of under Sony and Marvel. The Fantastic Four is Marvel's first family. That's their unofficial title. And after getting the rights back, Marvel's not going to screw this up. And the Fantastic Four First Steps is a very fitting title for this specific project. Not just in that sense, but also because of the timeline that we're in. We learned that the movie is going to be set in the 60s. but they specifically said a very futuristic 60s, which is kind of sort of almost official confirmation that the Fantastic Four are taking place in a separate universe. Because our 60s in the MCU prime timeline, the 60s we know, is not futuristic. It's very classic, like our real world 60s. And a futuristic style 60s has to take place somewhere else. I've kind of been off describing it to other people as the Jetsons set in the Marvel universe. That's kind of what I see it as. Just very like, not like maybe flying cars, obviously, because they have one in the movie. We're going to see it. But that's like the idea I have is like a Jetsons style universe with 60s setting and, kind of look and clothing and whatnot. Which I love. I love that for the Fantastic Four. I think it's a great, great setting for these characters. Really, really cool idea. And something that we've been theorizing for a while, but that they're taking place in a separate universe. I have a theory on how it all comes together, but I'm going to reserve that for now because obviously it's not official and I don't want to throw anything out there for someone who may not want to know. But everything sounds awesome. We learned that they're going to be in the Avengers movies, which makes sense. I thought that they always were, but it completely makes sense that they're going to be in the Avengers movies. And I've been saying it for a while now, but I think we have officially transitioned into the X-Men and Fantastic Four being the focus of the MCU. I know that we haven't really met the X-Men yet, obviously. But I think with Deadpool and Wolverine seeing a ton of mutants, and then when Fantastic Four arrives, I think that they're going to be the focus. I'm not saying that we're not going to have Avengers movies because obviously we're going to have Avengers movies. They're like the team. Like when Avengers movies happens, Fantastic Four come into the fold with the Avengers, right? X-Men come into the fold, and we're probably going to get Avengers versus X-Men, which I can wait for that. That's going to be amazing. But I think we're now officially in the mutant era of the MCU, or at least a very, very early on stage presence of the mutant era of the MCU with the Fantastic Four. I would not be surprised if the Fantastic Four kind of takes centerpiece for a while, if not like going forward, because they're Marvel's first family, duh. But also the actors you have playing them. Like Pedro Pascal is a leading man. Vanessa Kirby is a leading woman. I could see them being, spotlight of the MCU for sure. Like no doubt. Big G, if your theory is the same one I have, or I've heard, that would totally make sense on how they come into the MCU. I'm curious on what your theory is. Like I said, I don't want to say it unless you guys want to know. And it's probably not all that surprising, but let me know if you guys would like to hear it because I will totally talk about it. Andy, yeah, there was no way to do Secret Wars properly without Reed and Victor. They're learning their lesson from Secret Invasion. 100%. Secret Wars cannot happen without Doom. And Reed, but definitely Doom because Battle World and the whole thing that happens. So they've obviously pivoted, not just because of the Jonathan Major stuff, but because Kang wasn't panning out to be as big and as hopeful as a villain as I think we all expected him to be. I know that we haven't seen a lot of him, but the response wasn't great. And the Jonathan Major stuff was kind of a nail in the coffin for the character as of now. I think we will see him again. I just don't think he'll be a leading villain. I think he'll be involved with a group of villains. Because I think we'll end up seeing a villain team, and I think he'll be one of them. As long as it's speculation and not leaked info. Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, it's not leaked info. So I'll just go ahead and talk about it since it's very brief. And again, it's probably not all that surprising. I think there's a very high possibility that the Fantastic Four movie ends on a very, very bad note. And when I say that, I mean is I have a kind of an inkling that the Fantastic Four are going to lose and Galactus is going to swallow their world. And they're going to jet off, run off, or find their way, end up in either Deadpool's universe or our MCU Prime timeline. It would be the first time outside of Infinity War, which at the end of it, after Endgame, can you consider that a loss? Because they all ended up coming back outside of Gamora, obviously, like our Gamora. It would be like the first major loss. And they would come to, whether it's Deadpool's world or our world, as losers, essentially. Like their world would be gone. They would have lost. All of that entire population would have been killed. And they're going to have to find a way back from that. Whether or not it's like the event, maybe the Avengers collide with them because they believe that they lost, they're not trustworthy, etc. And they have to fight their way back to becoming the Fantastic Four, right? Or not even that, but like it also sets up Galactus as like a very real threat. Because Galactus is not just some throwaway villain for, like Dormammu, where he kind of showed up and we're like waiting for him to come, right? But like it sets up Galactus as a very major, major threat. And yes, Big G is, like, I was going to get to that. But Doom either follows them or is with them. Because we know that Doom and Reed are they all know each other. Doom just doesn't just pop up. They all have relationships, specifically Doom and Reed. And so I could see a very real possibility where Doom is part of that. And then he finds his way to a point where we get Avengers Doomsday. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think that that's kind of what I want to see, as bad as it, like, it's very Empire Strikes Back-y, right? Where the good guys, they lose. Everything goes kind of to shit at the very end. And then they find their way back. It's not like it's very different than Star Wars, clearly. And it's not the same exact kind of ending, but it would be the first time we see such a big loss for major characters. We've seen losses, right? Plenty of these movies have shown characters losing stuff, or someone dying, or but they always find their way back. This would be a group of characters losing their entire planet. So I do think that's kind of where we're headed, because it's also a really good way to have them come into our world, or Deadpool's world, which is where Monica Rambeau is. So that's been confirmed, by the way. Monica Rambeau is on that world. So, yeah, I mean, again, speculation, just a theory throwing out there, but I do think that Galactus will end up swallowing their world at the end of that movie. So we'll see. Either way, and just quickly mentioning all these details, I am loving everything I'm hearing from Fantastic Four so far. I love the cast. I've said it from the very beginning. I think the cast is brilliant. I love everything that's being announced from this movie. I love the approach that they're saying they're taking to it. And I'm very, very excited to see them enter this universe. Very excited. I think this has been the most excited I've been for in a Fantastic Four movie probably ever, for obvious reasons. But I think they're going to do it right this time. I think they're going to do it right. So, transferring from Fantastic Four into the biggest news of San Diego Comic-Con, and relating to all of this, is the announcement that Robert Downey Jr., and I've actually had pictures this whole time, but I keep forgetting to bring them up, that Robert Downey Jr. is being brought back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and will be playing Victor Von Doom for both Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. This is crazy, y'all. This is absolutely bonkers. And I really don't know how to describe my feeling when I first saw it. But let me tell you, I am 100% on board for it now. I am so excited for this now, because I keep clinging on to the idea of the hero of all heroes, Iron Man, Tony Stark's face, who saved the universe, sacrificed his body to save the universe, destroy Thanos and everything that happened in Endgame, is the same exact face as the guy who is now trying to destroy it. I keep thinking about that. Not only that, but I keep thinking about all of the characters that know Tony, seeing his face when he takes that mask off for the first time. Bruce Banner and Peter Parker specifically. Like that is exciting. Now, I don't know if he's going to be our Victor Von Doom forever. I don't think he will be, because Doom isn't just a 2-movie character. But I think he's the Victor Von Doom of the Fantastic Four universe. And I say that because he clearly cannot be Victor Von Doom in 616. He would be Tony Stark's twin, and that's not possible. He cannot look exactly like Tony Stark in the 616 universe. So there's 2 answers. One, 616 does not have Victor Von Doom, which is possible because we have not met the Fantastic Four in that universe. Or we haven't met Victor Von Doom in the 616 universe yet, and he just doesn't, and we don't know what he looks like. He just, for all intents and purposes of the conversation, let's just say the 616 version of Victor Von Doom looks like Cillian Murphy, because that's who I want to play Victor Von Doom. So those are the only 2 outcomes for the 616 version. Now, we also have to include Deadpool's universe. I believe it's 10005. So 10,005. We don't know what Victor Von Doom in that universe looks like, if there is one. So from what we know right now with the MCU is that the Avengers take place on one planet. The Fantastic Four take place, the Avengers and all of those characters who are related to the Avengers take place in the 616 timeline. The Fantastic Four and everyone related to the Fantastic Four take place in that timeline. And mutants, Deadpool, Wolverine, Beast, etc., all of those characters take place in 10,005, that universe, as well as someone like Maria Rambeau, who is playing a version of Captain Marvel in that universe, right? Because we saw her at the end of Captain Marvel 2. So it seems like they're setting up factions on different timelines for right now. But then all of the incursions that are happening, when Battle World happens, when planets collide, everything with Clea and Doctor Strange, right? We saw that at the end of Multiverse of Madness. All of those are going to come together, and then they will all be on one timeline. Mutants, Fantastic Four, Avengers, all Marvel superheroes will be on one timeline. So, Andy, you're right. Sorry. Like, I think when I say that is, it's like a select group that kind of like interchange, right? Miss Marvel is being considered a mutant. She's in 616. Wanda and Pietro are technically mutants. Kind of. They've never really been confirmed to be mutants. They're on 616. But like I said, Deadpool and Beast and all those characters, Charles Xavier, they take place on 10,005. But then we saw Maria Rambeau, a version of Captain Marvel, on that universe as well. So like, there's a few characters that interchange, but for the majority of it, it sounds like they're putting these factions of superheroes on different timelines for now, and then they're going to collide them. So like, you can just say you have the Avengers timeline, you have the X-Men timeline, you have the Fantastic Four timeline, and then at the end of Secret Wars, it's all going to be one. So we're all just going to be in one giant universe, and we're all going to have to get together. That's what the whole idea of Secret Wars is. It's bringing it all together, because the incursions are happening and we're losing timelines and planets, and they're crashing into each other. It's really confusing for people who don't pay attention to it, but at the end of Secret Wars, it won't matter anymore. They're all going to be on one planet, one Earth, one timeline. And again, this is all just speculation on my part, but that's how I see it. That's how I'm seeing it. After Deadpool and Wolverine, it very much feels like that's what they're doing. And again, there's thousands of universes out there, thousands of timelines. So there's timelines where there's timelines out there where they're mixed. But the 3 main ones that we're focusing on, the Avengers timeline, the X-Men timeline, the Fantastic Four timeline. Those are the only 3 that really matter. And 2 of those, more than likely the X-Men and Fantastic Four, are going to collide with 616, and 616 will be the prime main timeline going forward. Anyway, back to Robert Downey Jr. I really like the casting. I really do. I think it's an awesome casting. I'm super excited to see him go from hero to villain. We saw him as a villain. I mean, not really like a villain, but we saw him as an antagonist in Oppenheimer, where he had this very like diabolical character. And I cannot wait to see him embody Victor Von Doom. Like, if you're going to come back for a role, if you're going to come back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe where you're basically the Godfather, like you're number one, you're Iron Man, you're just the hero of all heroes. If you're going to come back to that universe after being killed, the character you come back for is Victor Von Doom. It really is. Like, I don't want to see him as Thanos or Apocalypse or any of those other villains. Like, obviously, they're all great villains. But you come back for Victor Von Doom. And that's super exciting, especially Victor Von Doom opposite Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn's Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss Bachrach's Ben Grimm. Like, that's awesome. Like, those are our 5 for the Fantastic Four for right now anyway. Whether or not he is our Victor Von Doom going forward, I don't know. But it's exciting to think about. And there's a bunch of possibilities with him as well. So it's all very, like, we don't know right now, like, what's going to happen. But there's multiple possibilities on how they can approach Victor Von Doom from this universe. One, and the most straightforward, is he is, in fact, Victor Von Doom. He is Victor Von Doom of that universe. And I tend to believe that because the Russo brothers, who are coming back, which I'm super excited about, the Russo brothers announced him at Comic-Con as Victor Von Doom. They didn't say Dr. Doom. They said Victor Von Doom. So that has, obviously that's legit. You have to buy into that. So the first possibility is he is Victor Von Doom. That's who he is. Second is that he's quote unquote Victor Von Doom, but he's really a Tony Stark variant who has taken on the role of Dr. Doom and the name Victor Von Doom, which is very possible because he looks exactly like Tony Stark. And that is something that we've seen in the comic books. Or it's not exactly how we've seen it in the comic books. In the comic books, we saw Victor Von Doom essentially consume the identity of Tony Stark. So in reality, he would be Victor Von Doom still, but he would have essentially swallowed everything that is Tony Stark. So that's the second one. The third one is he is, in fact, Tony Stark playing the role of Dr. Doom. That's the most non-believable at the moment because, again, they did announce him as Victor Von Doom. So from everything I'm taking right now, all the information we have, I believe that he is Victor Von Doom of the Fantastic Four universe, but he won't be the main Victor Von Doom after Avengers. And I go back and forth on that for multiple reasons. One being, I don't want the Victor Von Doom who is creating such massive carnage around the universe, Battle World, killing characters, etc., to be gone that fast. I don't want him to be gone that fast, right? Like, it almost feels like it's a wasted opportunity to have a Victor Von Doom played by Robert Downey Jr. creating Battle World, the Incursions, etc., be gone after the Avengers movies. So I fight myself because I then think to myself, okay, well, if that's the case, that means that Robert Downey Jr. is going to play Victor Von Doom for as long as they want or as long as they need him to. And when I think of that, as much as I love the idea of having RDJ come back to play this character, I'm also slightly bummed out because it's a missed opportunity to cast someone different in that role who could have been incredible in that role, right? Like a Cillian Murphy, for example. Good night, Posif. Good night, buddy. I'm going to be off here in just a few minutes. I'll come say goodnight to you. Bye, buddy.
Come on, Kyla.
Go. So yeah, I battle with myself wondering what they're really doing with him. I mean, we're all going to have to wait and see. Either way, I'm putting my thoughts right now at a dead stop after Avengers Secret Wars, and I'm thinking only that far out. And if I think only that far out, I am so stoked. I am so stoked. The lineup that we have, like, right? Avengers Kang Dynasty is now Avengers Doomsday, which it should have been from the start. I mean, it should have been Avengers Doomsday from the start. First of all, the title, epic, incredible title. Doom is the villain. They're doing it. And I cannot wait to see this character on screen. I'm telling you guys, he is arguably Marvel's best villain. And if they do him right, if they create this character and do him justice, which we have not seen yet, this dude could become the #1 villain in the MCU history. In the MCU history books is what I meant to say, but MCU history. And that's played by RDJ. Like, I'm telling you, I'm so stoked. I'm so excited. The future is bright, man. The future is really, really bright. All right, Gio, what's up, buddy? Now the question is, how big of a role presence will he have in First Steps, knowing the main villain is Galactus and his Herald? So I go back and forth on this. I do think he could be in it a little bit, right? Like setting up the relationship. But I would much rather see him as in just a post-credit scene. Because one thing we did learn in the panel for SDCC, is that this is not an origin story. Fantastic Four is not an origin story. So we're going to be picking up with these characters when they're already having their powers, going about their business. So who's to say they haven't had relationships with Victor Von Doom before, but he's off doing his own thing right now, and he's just not in it. But he still has that relationship with those characters because it happened prior to the events of the movie. So I think he'll be the post-credit scene because they have to set up the Avengers movies. And I think Fantastic Four is the movie that is setting up both the Avengers movies. Like, I think we're going to see, Easter eggs and tidbits here and there for other movies that are before it. But Fantastic Four is by far, without a doubt, the movie that is setting everything up for Doomsday and Secret Wars. So I think post-credit scene is where I'll put my bet. Big G, as Deadpool said about Wolverine, they're going to make him do this till he's 90. I hope so. If he's willing to come back, I'm all for it. And that was one thing that RDJ did say about him coming back, is that he wouldn't come back if the Russo brothers were not coming back to direct, which I'm sure was like signed, sealed, and delivered for the Marvel re-signing of the Russo brothers for both the Avengers movies. Which, quickly here, why not? They're 4 for 4. They're 4 for 4. I'm all for them coming back. And I mentioned it on a previous show, but they're now dealing with characters they've never dealt with before. They don't have Cap. They don't have Iron Man. They don't have Black Widow. They don't have all these characters. They don't have, T'Challa. They have a whole new set of characters to play with they've never touched before. Shang-Chi, Miss Marvel, Monica Rambeau. I mean, all of these characters that are brand new to this universe that they can now play with. So it really is like a fresh start, which I'm okay with. It's not something familiar. It's something brand new to them, which I think is super exciting. So this will not be the last time Marvel comes up on the show. It has a very bright future, in my opinion. Marvel has nothing coming out the rest of the year, which I am super, super happy for. Give them a little bit of a break. But they don't have anything coming out the rest of the year, and I'm looking forward to a little bit of break and getting going next year with Captain America 4, which I think looks awesome. But let's go ahead and move on to the final part of the show here, and that is my recommendation of the week. I'm recommending a TV show this week. And let me go and bring up an image as I talk about this. I'm recommending an Apple TV Plus show. Oh, what do you know? Surprise, surprise. Presumed Innocent. Presumed Innocent. This is a Jake Gyllenhaal led show. Let me throw my overlay back up. Jake Gyllenhaal starred show. It also stars Peter Sarsgaard and Ruth Negga. And it is just like the movie back in 1990 with Harrison Ford, just like the book it is based off of. It is a very, very good American courtroom thriller. Very good. If you've seen the movie, if you read the book, you understand the story. But this show does a really good job of keeping you on your toes. It's obviously in TV format, so they tell it in TV style, where they kind of leave you cliffhanging and certain story points episode by episode. But all 8 episodes are now available on Apple. And so if you're looking kind of like a little bit of a decompressor where there's not mind-blowing action, or it's not like, it takes place in other worlds, it's obviously not the easiest thing to watch because it deals with murder, but it doesn't deal with, fantasy worlds or crazy action or crazy characters. It's a very real life drama that happens in a courtroom between characters with great dialogue. And it's an Apple show. And you guys know how I feel about Apple. So I definitely recommend checking out Presumed Innocent. Very, very good show. And Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors on the planet. So it's hard to argue against anything that he is in. And if you guys don't have Apple, look back at my last show where I do nothing but talk about Apple, because I love Apple. I think their television is absolutely fantastic. And this is another one added to the list. I'm not sure if I spelled Presumed Innocent wrong. I might have. But, it is what it is. Presumed Innocent. Check it out. Jake Gyllenhaal, Peter Sarsgaard, Peter Sarsgaard is actually Jake Gyllenhaal's real-life brother-in-law. And they are on opposite sides in the courtroom, which is really, really cool. And then Ruth Negga, who plays Jake Gyllenhaal's wife. And she is incredible in this show. Absolutely incredible. So that is going to do it, everybody. I'm excited to be back. I had a really good time tonight talking everything with you guys. A lot of stuff to catch up on. Obviously, supersized Marvel episode. Some really, really good stuff in there. It'll all come back up at some point. But I thank you guys for joining me this evening, talking this out with me, having some conversation. It's always great to dialogue with you guys. And just having you guys in here watching me ramble on about things I love is always fun. So, again, make sure you're checking out Tin Cup American Whiskey if you are interested. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a great, great bourbon out of Colorado with a really, really good flavoring. Again, I'm going to do some video on this one. I have this one. I have Old Republic. And you guys will see those in the coming days. But for now, that is going to be the show for this evening. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are staying safe. You guys are working hard, having great time off, all the good stuff. I really appreciate you guys again. This is the Whiskey Jedi podcast. My name is Jake Berlin. You guys can find me on all of my socials at Qui-Gon Jake because at Qui-Gon Jake, 2 N's because someone else took it before I did. I don't say that as much as I used to. So I got to stop rambling on about it. But all my socials are linked in the description. Instagram, TikTok, X. You guys can find them all over the place. It's the same handle at all of socials. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me again. I appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great week. And I will catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.